capital world, Astronomecti. However, Galaxy Commander Brendan Corbett, the ranking Smoke Jaguar officer, is still at large. Corbett has been located on the world of Tranquil. He is fortifying his position and has called for remaining Jaguar forces to rally to him. Intel has designed a commando operation codenamed Damocles to execute a quick strike, neutralizing resource centers and exiting before Corbett can coordinate a counterattack. Our probes have uncovered a network of support facilities on this peninsula, which are Damocles' primary objectives. We predict only a modest opposition from garrison and quality warriors. Insertion will be made via drop pods. The drop ships Black Hammer and Eclipse will disperse 6 single-lance commando teams throughout the region, along with support vehicles for field repairs and modifications. Damocles 1 will recon this operations area, destroying targets of opportunity and then staging a raid against a mech production facility located here. Damocles 2 and 3 will be dropped into the second operations area, targeting a hydroelectric plant and an underground manufacturing facility. Damocles 4 through 6 will conduct search and destroy operations in this area against training facilities, military outposts, and this urban area. All units will rendezvous here, at the spaceport. Extraction by dropship will follow successful completion of all operations.
Power curve optimal. Drop checks complete. All systems nominal. Landing coordinates confirmed. Drop sequence commenced.
Damocles 1 support vehicles deployed. Testing recon probe. Video image. Optimal clearance.
Energy spike on the planet's surface. That indicates large sequence. What the hell was that? Can't get a reading on this equipment.
Can you confirm mech pod deployment?
Mayday, mayday. We're going down.
Communications reestablished.
What are we looking at? Can somebody redirect the probe?
Sir, I have Damocles 1-2 on the left. Damn. Sir, Damocles 4 is breaking up.
Damn. Damocles 1, please stand by.
Damocles 1, this is Captain Taylor of the Eclipse. We've lost contact with dropship Black Hammer and its commandos. Eclipse is abandoning its run. Data feed from probe indicates you are dropping on target. We'll ascertain your situation and the current threat level as soon as possible. Eclipse out.
Others later. Fine. Now bring up Area 1. Lance Leader, this is your mobile field base. The status of the Black Hammer is still uncertain. You are falling on target, but I've yet to raise your lance mates or any members of Teams 2 and 3. The intel rep for this mission was aboard the dropship, so we'll have to use canned data from an early probe flight. From our proposed landing site, here, we are to make our way west, neutralize the heavy missile platforms which control the lower valley, and then turn north following the river. This island facility is our final objective. The mech production site looks active, and the lack of strong military forces suggests an easy target. This operation is to be performed in 4 tactical sub-ops, indicated here. We'll wait one. New data coming through. You sure that's all we have? All right, give me the TAC map. Lance Leader, our probe data is extremely out of date. However, you're falling slightly off target. We predict a shallow water splashdown north of this fishing village. In order to get to the beach, vehicles have to use this bridge. It's protected by these fixed missile emplacements. Point Able designates a clan communications facility as your first target. Freeze video. These emplacements have to be eliminated. Point Baker is the programmed landing target of the mobile field base. We'll wait for you there. Cut the feed. Objectives. Neutralize communication center at Point Able. Rendezvous with mobile field base at Point Baker. Look out for these SRM emplacements. Mobile threats should consist of light mechs and some vehicles. Good luck, Lance Leader.
Alright, after that lengthy intro, I did not want to talk over any of that because, in my opinion, this game has the best briefings and intro of any of the MechWarrior series. Welcome to MechWarrior 3. I actually played this almost a year ago, but with everything going on in my life, moving and job changes and everything else, never got around to doing the voiceover for it, releasing it, so I figured with with MechWarrior 5 being out now, and everybody sharing their videos playing for the Smoke Jaguars and the invasion, I figured I would counter with what happened to the Smoke Jaguars after the invasion. And that is Task Force Serpent, and in this case, a little side operation of it, Operation Damocles, which was the inner sphere invasion of the homeworlds to destroy Clan Smoke Jaguar. We are a special operations insert from the Eridani Light Horse. Not a full unit. Was supposed to be about a company's worth brought in for a surgical strike. And you saw what happened when they tried to insert onto the planet. It was supposed to be lightly defended, just mopping up, and they found much more than they intended to. So this is my version of it. I originally was going to do this different from how I normally do these videos. I was going to do this like an in-game or in-universe thing, but after recording several of them and all that, it just wasn't that great. I didn't like the way it was coming out, so I decided I'd just do this like I normally do. This game came out the late 90s or right around the year 2000. I remember playing the demo for this before I went in the Army, and I enlisted in August of 1998, so that tells you how old this game is. I'm playing this on an ancient laptop to be able to use it and have it run, so that tells you. You can get it, find places to download it, but I have yet to figure out how to get it to work on a current operating system without all kinds of rendering issues. So I finally just said the hell with it, found a cheap old laptop and used that. You're using a mech that I don't like, and you're stuck in this first operation with it in its default configuration. And unlike in a lot of other games in the MechWarrior franchise, in this one, because you are behind enemy lines operating on a clan planet with no real support other than what you landed with you, for upgrades, ammunition, maintenance, repairs, everything else, you are confined to what you are able to salvage in this operation. So you will see me doing some very weird modifications to try and improve my weaponry and my ability to fight and survive. It gets better as it goes, and I get access to better mechs that I'm able to salvage, but I really, really do not like the Bushwhacker that I'm stuck with at the start of this. Never liked it, really don't like it in this game, but it's what they give you, so it's what I'm stuck using. It's one of those mechs that I think piles way too many different types of weapons onto one chassis. And the hard-hitting good weapons it has, it doesn't give you enough ammunition for, in my opinion. So, and that ER large laser it has is just... Oh, yes, you can run people over in this. The ER large laser it has, I feel, just generates way too much heat for its ability to dissipate in this chassis. So it's a good weapon, but it's not the most useful because every time you fire it, you see your heat spike there. And you fire it a couple of times as fast as you can, as fast as it cycles, and you're pretty much overheating. So, not the most useful. I also am a big fan of the AC-10, but unfortunately, you don't get a lot of ammunition for it in this game.
Clan radio chatter just tripled.
Also, as I've said in other videos, if you hear weird background noise in this, for change today I don't have the window open, but the reason you might be hearing weird background noises is we have a weather front coming in, and the wind is absolutely howling outside to the extent that my window and the outside siding of my apartment building are rattling and shaking and banging in the wind. So if you hear that, I apologize, but I can't control what the outside weather's doing.
Mission successful.
Good to see you, Lance
Op
Leader.
Point Baker reached.
No determination on the status of dropship Blackhammer. We assume it is down. Act in accordance with mission specifications until we devise a rescue plan.
That was Captain Taylor's official response to my request for information. Our extraction is an unknown factor at this time. We have recovered codes from the communications facility objective that allowed us to break Clan radio encryption. You will receive a direct feed of Clan intentions. Finally, Dominic Gunner Payne deployed successfully and has moved into position to keep Clan forces pinned in place. We will rendezvous with him as planned at the mech factory. To set up our River Valley run, we first have to gain access to this plateau. Roll probe data. There's some construction going on here. The MFB will investigate after you've cleared the area. This barracks facility is Op Point Able. We're counting on getting some significant salvage. Just past this lake is the major threat in this area. This is a heavy missile platform, and it sits right where we need to be. Back to overview. Objective Able, Objective Baker. The missile...
Reactor online.
So this early, unfortunately, as you see, I am going to be talking over the missions themselves because the briefings and everything are so good in this. They do such a good job of explaining what's going on and laying it out for you that I don't want to talk over them. Early on in this, as you see, we're not really running into a lot of heavy opposition. These early ones where you've just landed, you're basically running into not even second line, but like planetary militia level clan opposition. I mean, they're using salvaged and returned inner sphere equipment for the most part here. But, you know, they are still clanners. They all need to die. However, there's not a lot really to talk about with what's going on here. So instead, for those that might not be really familiar with Battletech, I figured for these I'll talk a little bit about the unit that we're playing as part of here. The Eridani Light Horse. If you've seen some of my videos where I point out the patches and stuff on my shirt that are from Battletech, that is this exact regiment that I'm playing as here, the 71st Light Horse of the Eridani Light Horse. Historically in the game, long before the time the game takes place in, they were the 3rd Regimental Combat Team of the Star League Defense Forces, which, I mean, if you know anything at all, even a passing acquaintance with the Battletech lore, you know that the Star League Defense Force were the ones that left the Inner Sphere and eventually became the clans. The 3rd RCT elected to stay behind. They felt they had a responsibility to defend their area that they had been assigned to garrison, which was part of the Draconis Combine. They didn't have loyalty to the Combine itself, it was to the people that they were defending. So the entire unit as a whole voted to stay, with a very, very few individual exceptions. And so, you know, they did. They got swept up into the succession wars, everything else. Over time, with the way things were going in the Inner Sphere, just to survive, they ended up becoming a mercenary unit that maintained, to a very large extent, the ideals and fighting style and tactics of the old Star League Defense Force, which really, really stood them out, made them very unique among mercenary units in the Inner Sphere. They had a very high level of professional competency, training, tactical ability, and everything else that set them above and beyond most of the other mercenary commands. They also had what some people considered an infuriating level of honor, if you want to call it that, whereas, you know, they very deliberately did not fight in civilian areas. They did not target civilian infrastructure despite everything else that was going on around them in the succession wars. They did everything they could to minimize civilian casualties and damage to the planet that they were fighting on, because they felt it was their responsibility to preserve life despite the fact that they were soldiers, not to wantonly destroy it. They kept them going. They have maintained those traditions into the 31st century. At this point of the game, we're in the 3060s. When the clans returned, and it was discovered that the clans were what had become of Kerensky's Exodus, and so they were, in every sense of the word, their former brethren come back now fighting. The Eridani Light Horse at first was viewed suspiciously by the Inner Sphere. Some people thought that, they must have known what was going on and they were in cahoots with the clanners, and they took that personally. And anytime they came up in a fight against the clans, they fought all out, to the point where at least twice that I can think of, when they fought the clans in large-scale actions, the unit was more or less destroyed in the effort to take the clans down. They held nothing back as long as it did not violate their own standards and morals. Especially against Clan Jade Falcon in the FedCom area. They fought like hell. When the Inner Sphere got together and decided that the best way to fight the clans was to give them a taste of their own medicine, more or less, and they recombined themselves into the new Star League, what is referred to usually as the Second Star League, or the Reborn Star League, or the Sham Star League, depending on your point of view. The Eridani Light Horse volunteered to join the SLDF, the new one, and take the fight to the clans, because one of the whole points of this new Star League was to a unified front against the clans, and to basically tell the clans, well, you decided to invade the Inner Sphere to reestablish the Star League. Well, believe it or not, it reestablished the Star League, just not in the way you thought, so what are you going to do now? It was decided that the best way to drive that point home to the clans was to do something only the clans themselves had ever done to that point, which was destroy an entire clan. And they decided to target the most brutal and vicious of the clans, which, if you've played MechWarrior 5 Clans, is the Clan Smoke Jaguar that you play in that, in their invasion of House Kurita and the Draconis Combine. They had Operation Bulldog, which was the combined Inner Sphere Star League counter-assault against the clan occupation zone to take down the Smoke Jaguars in the Inner Sphere. But they also launched what they called Task Force Serpent, which used captured intelligence gained from a Smoke Jaguar who had defected and gone over to the new Star League, and specifically Comstar, and told them basically what they called the Exodus Road, the route to get to the clan homeworlds, and they launched an invasion to simultaneously destroy Clan Smoke Jaguar's home on Huntress. At the same time, the rest of the force was attacking the occupation zone in the Inner Sphere. Both good and bad, the assault on the Inner Sphere went so much better than even the most optimistic Inner Sphere projections of the campaign that Smoke Jaguar pulled out and retreated to Huntress in order to avoid being completely destroyed in the Inner Sphere, which was great for Operation Bulldog, not so good for Task Force Serpent. So a small force under Prince Victor Ian Steiner Davion of the Federated Commonwealth followed them along the Exodus Road and trailed them back to Huntress. So while the Star League Defense Forces were fighting on Huntress against what was there, all the forces that had jumped ship from the Inner Sphere and run home dropped on top of them while they were in the middle of the fight. And once again, the Eridani Light Horse was along with several other units, all but annihilated. The reconstituted Royal Blackwatch, several other units, the Knights of the Inner Sphere, and a few others, took such heavy losses that they were pretty much all but destroyed. But when the forces that had followed them from the Inner Sphere arrived at Huntress and joined in the fight, that was enough. They were able to annihilate the Smoke Jaguars on Huntress and end the operation. They finally went to Strana Mechti, the clan homeworld, which is getting a little bit ahead of the storyline here because you will hear about it in the game, and declared a trial against them and annihilated what was left of Clan Smoke Jaguar and destroyed them.
We found a couple of dismantled warship-class assault lasers at that construction site. Too bad we can't use them. Survivors of Damocles 2 have made contact. They're attacking the hydroelectric dam in Operations Area 2. Also, Captain Taylor has set the Eclipse down well north of us. They're trying to break through, find a place to rendezvous, and pull us out of here.
And the time we're fighting here is...
We are here.
Sorry. But it's right around the time of the trial on Strana Mechti.
These facilities guard the bridge which we consider our best route across the river. Freeze data. This, my friends, is an annihilator. An assault mech. But this data is old. Run data. Keep a sharp lookout. We'll rendezvous here. Operation points are set as shown. You have to tell us when it's safe to move. We'll wait for your call. Dominic Payne is going to be waiting for us, so we don't have much time. We'll move through the valley on your orders and rendezvous here. We estimate that fixed emplacements cover this area. Expect much heavier mech resistance. They know we're here.
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
So after, to get ahead of the story here, catch up a little bit with what went on later and why some of the things later on are the way they are with the Iridani Light Horse. After everything was over, the Star League kept a presence on Huntress, the former homeworld of Clan Smoke Jaguar. And the various regiments of the Iridani Light Horse were among those who rotated through on a regular basis to garrison the world, keep a Star League presence in the clan homeworlds, basically serve, because the clans are so militaristic, basically that was what served as the embassy between the Star League and the clans. However, the clans, a lot of them never really resigned themselves to the Star League resurrecting itself, never really took it seriously, and were always looking for opportunities to try to humble and humiliate the Star League garrison on Huntress. One of the ways they did that was by constantly declaring trials of possession. What the clans would do between themselves to get technology and resources, they were constantly doing to whatever unit was on Huntress in an attempt to whittle it down and humiliate it and convince, prove that they were still, they were still the biggest dogs in the fight, and the Star League had no business being there, and they were just a bunch of pretenders and weaklings and all that. The direct effect of that was the last unit that was garrisoned on Huntress of the Star League Defense Forces was the 71st Light Horse, one of the 3/4, depending on the time period you're talking about, regiments of the Iridani Light Horse, the former 3rd Regimental Combat Team. While they were there, they were getting so constantly whittled down by attrition from all of these trials. Even the ones they won, equipment was destroyed, people were killed, things like that. That eventually Clan Goliath Scorpion, which is the only clan I really like, so coincidentally my favorite unit and my favorite clan come together, more or less. Kind of in an effort to keep them from being destroyed and kind of in seeing them as a living remnant of the old Star League that they revere so much, rather than see them eventually all killed, offered them the opportunity with, through an actual trial, but said, we will declare a trial of possession for your whole unit. If you win, we'll support you, we'll let you continue what you're doing, and we will be in support of you. You will have us as an ally. If we win, you will join our clan, and you will survive as part of the clans. Literally, you will be of the clans now. You'll survive. And this was around the same time that the Word of Blake incidents began in the Inner Sphere. And they realized that they were now completely cut off from home and would be overrun, annihilated, and killed by the other clans if they didn't do something. So they agreed to the trial. I forget the exact date. I could actually look it up in the book real quick if I wanted to. But they did have the trial. Goliath Scorpion did win, and what was left of the 71st Light Horse was absorbed en masse into the Tumen of Clan Goliath Scorpion and survived everything that was going on. Obviously, taking losses because they were now part of the clan and, involved what they were involved in, which meant the, what was it called? The reaving that went on in the homeworlds and all that, which I am not going to get into now. It's a messed up story. But when Clan Goliath Scorpion eventually said enough was enough and left the homeworlds behind and struck out and moved out to establish what has been now in the 32nd century has become the Scorpion Empire in the periphery, the survivors of the 71st Light Horse were among them, and their descendants are now part of the clan. So, things are very, very different for the Eridani Light Horse going into the Ill Clan era. But one of the interesting things is we don't know what is eventually going to happen with the Scorpion Empire and the now reformed and reassembled remnant of the Eridani Light Horse in 3151. And there's a possibility, quote unquote, very large quotes around that possibility, very large italics basically, that the new Third Star League established by Clan Wolf, and most likely being fought against by the Eridani Light Horse and others, those fighting them could potentially have the support of a clan that has established itself as a power in the periphery, part of which is the descendants of the Eridani Light Horse, 71st Light Horse. So that gives some really interesting possibilities going forward for the plot in Battletech that I am very interested to see what happens with it. Because I don't think they're going to, go whole hog and do something really over the top with it. But it does give some very interesting plot lines they could go with going forward. And I am curious to see what happens with it. Because the Eridani Light Horse is back, Clan Goliath Scorpion is still a thing, and the two of them could find themselves on the same side in a war, which might be interesting. So we'll have to see where that goes. I really, really hope they do something good with that. I hope that is not just a dangled thread that they don't do anything with. I really, really, really hope we get something good out of that plot line. So having said all of that, where this fits in with that storyline, where we are in that overarching story of all of those things that come together, is there is I believe it was a Galaxy Commander, it could be just a Star Colonel, but I believe it was a Galaxy Commander, named Brendan Corbett, who was one of the Smoke Jaguar officers, who had managed to get off of Huntress and take forces with him, and went to this world called Tranquil, which was one of their lesser holdings, but they did have a sizable presence on the planet, and is attempting to rally surviving forces to him and keep the fight going. And obviously, the forces of Task Force Serpent and Operation Bulldog, now as it's come in, cannot let that happen. So what they did is they've deployed a commando team that was supposed to be a surgical strike to take him and his supporters out. And as I mentioned, and as you saw at the opening of this, they've run into a lot more than they bargained for. This planet is much better defended, and eventually you'll find much more strongly garrisoned than their intelligence and their scouting had led them to believe. Partly because of the forces that have returned from the inner sphere. So we are part of that. We are part of Damocles Commando, which is the small command, basically a battalion size, maybe not even that large sized force that was sent to this planet to finish off what they thought was this small remnant of Smoke Jaguar forces that turns out to be much, much more than we thought it was. So that's where we fit in with that. And to talk about this game, I will say for something that comes from the late 90s, it is such an older game than the more current ones. I think the battle mech design, the environmental design, as simple as it is, as you can see, it's very simple, blocky. And especially the weapons and the way battles play out and the weapon effects and everything look and sound and feel. I will say, in my opinion, this game comes the closest to replicating how battle mech combat looks and feels as described in the novels and the fluff. From the colors of the laser beams to the way autocannons fire and missiles go and the mechs move, although it's simpler, honestly, than it should be because of the technological limitations of a game like this. But largely, I will say that this game, in my opinion, comes the closest to replicating the way Battletech is described in the novels set within this universe. Other people might not agree with me on that. Other people think it might think it's MechWarrior 4 or MechWarrior 5 or even MechWarrior 2 or Mech Commander or whatever else. But for me, how I've always pictured it reading the novels that I grew up reading, this game gets the closest to it. I think this game has the best weapons effects and most realistic in terms of the way they're described in the novels. Weapons look and sound and feel and effect and everything else. It's close to perfect when it comes to replicating the novels, in my opinion. Again, other people might not agree with me on that. That is my opinion. Opinions are like assholes. We've all got them, and most of them stink. But that's mine. Is this game perfect? No, absolutely not. No game is. But is it a faithful reproduction of the way the combat is described in the stuff that they have published? Most definitely. Most definitely. To me, MechWarrior 4, as I mentioned in my playthrough of that, is too cartoony. This, as silly as it sounds with being much simpler graphics, just looks and feels more realistic to me. Or at least more realistic in terms of the way it's described.
The forces to the north are stalled in their attempt
I
to
didn't get
rendezvous
credit
with
for
us.
that mech?
Galaxy Commander
Weird.
Corbett is apparently leading a frontline trinary against them. That's all we have for now. Roll fly-through sequence. Your first stop point is in the center of these facilities. Freeze video. These greenhouses are used exclusively by the Clan military forces. Deny them their use. On this island are the power generators. Run video. Sensors indicate the power output is unusually low to run such a large facility. Watch this. Now we know what caused the destruction of the Black Hammer. Rewind to just before the destruction. Freeze. These are warship-class lasers, just like we found in the lower valley. They're mounted on a simple tower platform. Here are your op points. Expect heavy mech resistance. Fixed emplacements cover these areas. Payne will move in as soon as you begin your run. We'll stand by for orders.
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
I will say, too, as you're watching this, now that the briefings are over, you'll notice I'm not doing particularly brilliantly at the start of this. I had not played this game so long, and I did not play it through before I started recording it for these. I wanted it to be my first playthrough in a very long time. So, I am far from comfortable with my control setup and everything else in this. You'll see me trying different weapons loadouts. I will try different control configurations and things like that before I settle into being comfortable with it. Even though I'm very familiar with it, I remember it well, I have not played it in so long that as far as me playing it, watching me play it goes, it's basically like I'm playing it for the first time. My marksmanship is not very good. I screw up occasionally with the tactics. I don't do brilliantly well. I'm not playing this with, any, invincibility turned on or anything else. So, you're seeing it as I am playing through it for the first time. Ooh, I know. I think this was when I realized all I have to do is light a mech to destroy it. I don't trust something that's got the radiation symbol on it, standing next to it. But I also thought I had turned the music off when I played this. I'm kind of surprised to hear it playing. I could kill this stuff faster, but I'm trying to conserve my ammunition, not being sure what I'm going to run into here. If you're curious about this point in the Battletech storyline, and that sounds like something you might like to read, look online or to purchase, or if you can find the ebooks of it, if you have one of those services. The Twilight of the Clans series is where a lot of this stuff takes place. This particular part is not described in any of the clans. This takes place off to the side. But the Operation Bulldog, Task Force Serpent, and all that is laid out in the Twilight of the Clans novel series. So if you are interested in that, want a good read, check that out. I remember reading it when it first came out, and it's still one of my favorite series within the Battletech fiction. Partly because the Iridani Light Horse are so prominent in it, but so also it's got some of my favorite characters from earlier that are still in it, like Morgan Hasek Davion and things and characters like that. If you're a fan of the older stuff, there's enough familiar with it that you can follow it. And if you're a fan of the later, looking for something that comes, something to go further back, it really explains and describes how things got to where they were with, destruction of Clan Smoke Jaguar and all of that. It lays all that out so you can kind of understand what had gone on with it.
Op point Baker reached.
And if you're curious about how the Iridani Light Horse, 71st Light Horse, ended up in Clan Smoke Jaguar, it is covered in one of the short stories contained within the No Greater Honor compilation of stories that are all Iridani Light Horse through various points in their history. There's a very, very good short story about how they, what happened to them on Huntress and how they ended up in the Goliath Scorpions. It's also one of the better, in my opinion, within the published fiction, canon fiction descriptions of the Goliath Scorpions. It's a little weird in that, like, I understand where they're going for, and you could almost say that it was a deliberate effort on the part of the Scorpions, but they seem much more human and inner sphere familiar than you tend to picture clans of this time period. But as I say, you could almost say that they deliberately were presenting themselves that way to be more appealing to the Light Horse. So I really don't think it kind of shits on the canon or is out of character for a clan. The Scorpions are weird. I love them. I will be the first to admit they are weird. They don't really fit in with the clans, but they also are very unfamiliar and alien to the inner sphere. So they're the kind of this weird in between.
Targeting.
In the what was the one? There's a more recently published novel. I'm trying to think of what it's titled. Always Faithful or Eternally Faithful or something like that. I forget, but it's the post Task Force Serpent at the same time, more or less. But it focuses on what was left of the Smoke Jaguars and what happened to them after everything. And the Scorpions feature prominently in that. But I don't like, really, the Scorpion portrayal in that. Not because it's like... not because I don't like the, like it shows them in a bad light, but it almost where the one book and story kind of makes them seem a little bit too familiar and not clan-like, even though they're really not unclan-like in it. They're just not what you kind of picture. This one almost, at least with the character who's the main focus of it from the Scorpions, kind of is the opposite, where he is way too much like what you picture of a clanner in general, not how you picture a Goliath Scorpion clanner being. It's almost like it goes too far the other way with that character, which I can kind of understand, because in the canon it does describe him as being like repeatedly censured and demoted and then given other chances because he is, I don't want to say an idiot, but he's very short-sighted, tunnel vision, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, he has his objectives and his vision for things, which are very different from his Khan and how she wants to do things. Where the Khan is the character that's the main Goliath Scorpion one you see in the Iridani Light Horse story, This other one that is opposed to her is the one that is the focus of the other book. So you kind of get the dichotomy in both ends of the spectrum of that clan, basically, is the best way to put it. It's hard to describe because I don't really want to give away things from them. If you want to read them, I don't want to give everything away. I want to let you read them and appreciate them. But you get two very, very different but equally accurate views of the same clan in the two different sources.
We have arrived and are ready to deploy.
But the one that focuses on the Smoke Jaguars is basically setting up a storyline from the Word of Blake era and then going into the later the Republic of the Sphere and the Ill Clan era. It's explaining something that happened with that more than it's a story of the post-exit or post operation or post refusal and all that, I guess, is the best way to put it. So it's not bad. It's just the further you go into it, the more it's just obviously just trying to explain how something got to the point that it's at in later. Which I don't really have a problem with the idea of that. It's just the execution I'm not a fan of. Not even a criticism of the author or anything. I know what he was going for, and I appreciate what he was going for. I'm just not a big fan of what it is that he was trying to explain. I don't feel it needed to be explained. It was one of those things that was perfectly fine being something that was not really understood in universe and letting the fans make their own story for it. But I'm okay with it, just not a fan of what they did. I also have to go over that and get. So, going after this Orion, and that will be the pretty much end of this part of the game. So it'll be the end of this video. So I'll just let this play out, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you on the next one. Later.
Before we move out, you'll have to decide on salvage. Meanwhile, we've intercepted a private channel between Star Colonel Ratash Osis and his aide. Stand by for playback.
Smashed, Dre. The entire facility. Without those greenhouses, we'll be hard-pressed to feed the incoming forces.
You warned him about placing the site so near our hydroponics project.
I did. But will Brendan Corbett take the blame for this?
Neg, Star Colonel. With Lincoln Osis' death on Strana Mekti, the Galaxy Commander will be our next Khan. He can do no wrong.
Exactly. I will make these Surats pay for this. I promise.
You catch that, Lance Leader? Lincoln Osis, Ilkhan of the clans, died on Strana Mekti. The Star League must be victorious. But I don't expect we'll be relieved anytime soon.